All right, we're going to kick off now. Want to welcome everybody. Thank you again, especially repeat visitors. I mean, we don't have a ton of people in here just yet, but really happy to have you guys back and, logging in for our second design stream, in a row. This is the second week we've done this. Tonight I have a returning co-host, my brother Jake, and also a new co-host, my fiance Cathy. So if you guys want to just take like a quick minute and kind of introduce yourselves.
My name's Cathy, and I'm Ken's fiance, and I beat him twice in a row playing Flawed yesterday. Big accomplishment. I don't know. I have like gaming history for the last, I don't know. When did I start playing? When I was like 14. It's like 16, 17 years of playing Magic, Force of Will, Kaijudo, whatever. I'm not good at any of them, but I've played them all.
Yeah, I'm his brother Jake. I lost 2 games today against Kenny, which is twice what I normally can withstand.
Mm.
I have no real history in card playing, um, but I do enjoy Flood.
Well, that's awfully nice of you to say after losing two in a row, right?
Did you see that Cam said you are quiet, Ken?
So
And also
I
Jake is quiet?
Wyatt,
Yeah.
I actually just went through them. Oh, there it
Jake's
is.
quiet. You had your headset flipped up. Okay,
Maybe.
I am going to figure
Can you
out.
guys say in the chat, does Jake sound louder now?
Hello, test, test.
So my outbound in Discord is 200%. I'm not really sure what I can do to fix that. Is it? I mean, is it to the point that you guys like literally can't hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. Well, you're getting me
So,
inside of Discord.
in individually,
He
everyone
can hear
can
me just fine.
adjust anyone's volume.
Yeah, if you don't have me turned up, go ahead and crank me up. If Cathy's
And for
very
the
loud, I can turn her down a little bit.
and for the actual video or like the VOD, all that matters, Kenny, is that you can hear me loud
Yeah.
and like you can
Okay.
hear Kathy.
Makes sense. Yeah, I can hear you both pretty loud and clear. Okay, so tonight we're going to be jumping into kind of the next faction, the next tribe. All these words are pretty interchangeable. We haven't really solidified one yet, but we're going to be looking at Earth tonight. Earth is it's a really cool sort of mixture of different things, right? They've got some of the resource ramp that we were talking about a little bit before the stream. They've got like kind of an anti-event sort of like theme inside of some of their cards. Bunch of big tanky, guys that just like kind of come in and hold the board. But what they don't have usually is like a lot of speed or really good mixed stats. They're usually like pretty specialized units. So we're gonna be going through and kind of taking a look at these today. We wanted to kick off the stream a little bit differently this time and kind of do a quick like kind of walkthrough of like sort of what a game looks like, what types of things you're trying to achieve throughout a game, and then rather than just randomly going through all the cards, we're going to hit one of each type to start to kind of focus in on those particulars, and then we'll finish off the rest of the color behind that. So, Kathy, you and I were talking about this earlier. Why don't you go ahead and
Yeah.
kind of give us like what does a game look like? Like what's a game of
Can
Flawed really
you,
look like?
yeah, can you put up the shrine, the Great Oak shrine
Yeah,
picture?
there it is.
So we have not unfortunately put up the Learn to Play video yet, and we are working on a series of 16 videos that will be a couple minutes long each to essentially teach the rules, but those aren't ready yet. So just to summarize, each player has their own shrine in front of them. This is an example of the green shrine we'll be talking about today, the Earth Shrine, the Great Oak. And you'll notice it says HP towards the bottom of the picture, and then there's a colon, it says 21. So this shrine has a health point total of 21. So it can take 21 points of damage before it's destroyed. And in a game of Flawed, the goal of the game is to destroy your opponent's shrine first. So deal, in this case, at least 21 or more damage, and then you would win the game. And it's an instant, minute you hit that damage threshold, the game just instantly ends. And so you deal damage to the opponent's shrine with casting event cards, which are similar to like spells and magic, or you can attack the shrine with units, which are similar to creatures in magic. And yeah, so we're going to go through a couple different card types, shrines, units, events, and then we'll go through and just do all of the green cards, earth cards.
I don't know if it matters to add this, but there are also abilities that can target a shrine and do
Yeah,
damage.
yeah.
Of course, yeah. There are a number of different ways to get that damage.
Mm.
Travis just asked a question about the Great Oak in particular, since we're looking at it. He says armor is just basically health that goes on top of max. It kind of is, but it kind of isn't. Basically, armor is a passive effect that will decrease damage while you have it. So armor 1 is like infinite health if your opponent is only hitting you for 1 at a time, because it's all those 1s are going to get reduced down to 0, right?
Each instance of damage being dealt is reduced by 1.
But if your opponent
So,
just hits you for 9, then you're still getting chunked for 8.
Yeah, every source reduces it by 1.
Yeah, exactly.
I forgot to mention something as well in terms of like just playing the game in general. I think we brought this up in the previous stream, but it's important to keep noting that this is played with what's the word used? Synchronous turns.
Yeah, that's one way we've
So
said
like
it before.
one turn, quote unquote, like Ken and I would go back and forth if we were playing. So he would do something, I would take an action, he would do an action simultaneously. We'd go back and forth, alternating actions until both of us decide that we don't have anything to do for that turn. Then the turn ends, you unrest everything, untap everything, draw a card, and then you start another turn where I do something, he does something, I do something, back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
So that's definitely unique to this game, and the only other game I know of that does that type of play is in like card form is Star Wars Destiny, if you're looking for something similar.
Runeterra is similar. Dim073 just asked, this is similar to Runeterra. It's similar, but Runeterra has a lot of focus on like active player versus inactive player and like things like that don't. Yeah, we don't really have that, and the combat in Runeterra is also very like, I click attack all, send them in, and you figure it out, right? It's much more akin to like a Magic the Gathering attack system, whereas we're working with like one-on-one unit interaction, more like a force wheel or something like that, where you've got individual attacks and individual combats are their own action. So it definitely has some aspects like Cathy said, that simultaneous turn, but there is a lot of nuance that makes that turn look quite a bit different than a Runeterra turn. I think Cathy had just mentioned
about the shrine.
Yeah, we can stick on the shrine and then rotate through the rest of this set of one of each. But one thing that Cathy did say was how you keep taking actions until both players are done. There's an important little caveat to that we can just kind of toss out there. One of the actions that you can take is pass. Okay, and there are different game states that come up where you end up taking a pass action. Sometimes you're forced to take a pass action, so on and so forth. But that's how the turn actually ends, right? If both players are out of things to do, then they both pass, and you end up going into the next turn. So that's kind of important, because if you see any cards that say like you must pass all your future actions, then you know that you're locked into like you're looking at the end of the turn, right? So your opponent's going to finish what they're doing, and then we go like that. Yeah, we are going to do Earth Essences after we do this. Oh, I didn't want that to happen. Oops. Okay.
Yeah, we remembered your request from the last video.
Yeah.
Essence is ready to go this time.
So we're going to go through one of each of these, and then we're going to look at the Earth Essences and then finish up the set, yeah.
Which, honestly, the Essences are what makes Flawed super cool. And that's all anyone wants to know about it. Anyway.
I know, it's kind of a shame that we missed the mark on that last week, but I did not have the files ready. It was a lot of work to get those up and running, so fortunately we'll fit them in this time. But yeah, let's do a quick little commentary on the Great Oak, since we've kind of already introduced it. This is the Earth Shrine that you're going to find inside of set 1. I think I mentioned this last week. Like, most of the cards you're going to see here are going to be, in the release. There might be some modifications between now and then, but these broad strokes are going to be staying in place. So I'm gonna go to Jake, because he has played this shrine probably more than anybody on planet Earth.
I feel a little called out.
A little bit of a pun there, planet Earth. But go ahead. What do you think about the Great Oak?
A lot of times when I'm building a deck, it's really good, just for how tanky it is. I mean, that's kind of what it does, and honestly, I can justify playing with it if you even have like 6 Earth events, like not even a whole bunch, because there can be some turns you trigger an Earth event, like when they have a big board, and you could save like 5+ health on a really ugly looking board just by triggering that armor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I mostly play Earth, so options are limited.
Oh, Cathy's going in hard in the chat right now. She said, and you guys don't even know that there's a Great Oak unit in later sets.
Like, what?
Yeah.
I get yelled at for saying wall?
She's dropping all types of spoilers.
Unacceptable.
So yeah,
I just
Jake.
think that like lore is so cool, because in the first set it's just this big giant tree.
And in
this,
the later
course,
set,
this like placeholder art is a castle, but
right.
The Great Oak artwork is going to be like a big tree, kind of like the Tree of Life in Disney World. And then later in sets, the unit is literally like an ent, like the tree just stood up.
Yeah.
It's so like, I don't know, creepy and
Had
I
enough.
like it.
No, yeah, he's literally had enough. I mean, his
I would-
card is very
I would
upset
too.
when it shows up later on. But yeah, to Jake's point, I think that this shrine is it's almost misleading how tanky it is at times because like you see 21 HP, you're like, okay, that's pretty big. That's a pretty good starting stat for HP. But then like Jake just said, I mean, you have turns very often where like, you know, on turn 2 or turn 3, you just have an earth event and your opponent's got a board where they're hitting you with like they're playing real aggressive. They hit you with like 2 guys and an activated ability, and you took -1 damage from all 3 of those. Like your earth event did what it was going to do anyway, but also just saved you 3 points of damage. Like that's so much value at times.
Another thing, it stacks with
Yeah,
Woodwind Protector, who is in this set.
turn 2
Even
earth
having
event like
one of them
ramping.
out,
Yeah,
it's like really good. Like there's been times where I've seen like 5 or 6 kittens who couldn't do anything
yes.
because they just do 0 damage now.
When we get to that card, we'll definitely talk about stacking armor. But yeah, there are a number of ways to make this ability even better than it already looks. But definitely a great shrine. I would say that like the Earth Shrine and the Light Shrine, which we obviously haven't seen the Light Shrine yet, but those 2 shrines are definitely the like. I would say the ones that are more on the controlling end of the spectrum in this first set. They give you the time to set your board up, and yeah,
Next.
they are all different HP. Yes, all the shrines have different HP. Last
They
week
all
we
have different HP, but is there any shrine improvement that can modify HP?
There is.
Kathy.
Oh, what an interesting question.
So one
Have
of
you
the
talked about shrine improvements?
I don't know that we have because we didn't really do essences at all last week, so we can touch on it real quick right now. I actually don't have the improvement files ready, but shrine improvements are much like an essence. They're going to be a clear like overlay that goes on top of your shrine, and they're going to give it either an extra passive stat, activated ability, tribal effect, like something that plays with your deck. And that allows you to kind of mix and match. Because I mean, your shrine starts in play, right? You always have that card. So if you're playing a soldier deck, you can put the improvement on that like makes soldiers better. If you're playing, a mono earth deck, you can put the improvement on that like plays well with like earth cards. Like there are a bunch of different ways to kind of customize your starting card. Throne Room is one of the really good ones for earth decks.
Yeah, the shrine improvements are different from essences, though. And
Yeah.
they don't interact with your resource zone. They don't generate mana.
Right. The
It's
only
just
thing that they
how
do
you
is
customize your shrine.
Yep. The only thing they do is give you some type of an added little boost onto your.
I know Ken's reading the chat right now.
Okay.
Give the shrine power so things get hurt hitting it. Yeah.
There is a way to do that, Travis.
Walls.
So Travis just asked, give the shrine power so things get hurt hitting it. There's a shrine improvement called Spiked Walls that just does it the very first time you get hit each turn. It's like a once per turn passive effect where they take a damage for hitting you. But then there's also actually kind of like a soft combo that you can create in later sets that allows you to set up like a kind of like a permanent Spiked Walls. But yeah, there are things like that, defensive little like manipulations that you can make and stuff. And then moving into DM073's question, he says, does every card get an essence or an enhancement? Yes. The idea is that your basic outer sleeve is always going to have to be able to fit like 2 cards worth of thickness, but it's really a little bit less than that. We've done a little bit of internal testing with like how these products are going to look, and I've also reached out to companies that I know who do this type of clear printing and talked about what's possible. And the idea is basically going to be you're putting like 2 cards in each sleeve.
Can you pull up an essence?
I can, yeah.
Segue into that because I think DM073 is asking a lot of good questions. So there are like basic essences in the sense that can be unlimited, and there's 2 different types. There's the basic earth essence, which is this one right here,
Yep.
and then what's the other one called?
The other one is called Infused Earth Essence. So
the infused earth essences and the regular earth essences are unlimited in terms of like playsets.
Yep.
And then all of the other essences are 3, maximum 3 playset in a
Yep.
deck. And so on this picture, you see the little +0. That is the essence's card construction cost, and in a very similar location on a cardboard card. If you want to pull that up, Ken, as well.
I can, yep. We'll just go to the next card we're going to be looking at.
So here we have a 2, also far left of the card. That's where it is right now.
Yep.
It might change in the future. But those 2 numbers together, the card construction cost on the cardboard card and then the plus whatever the number is on the essence card construction cost, those 2 numbers have to add up to 6 or less. And so that is your requirements in terms of deck building. So you can only put an essence on a card if the combined CCC card construction cost is 6 or less.
Right. So you've got Absorb Magic here as an example, has a 2. We already looked at the basic Earth Essence. These are your like run-of-the-mill, they don't really do anything. But then there's like a bumped up version of each essence, I would say. It's like the essence that gives the smallest piece of the flavor of the color that it's from. And here's an example of that. This is the infused Earth Essence. So this is the type of card where, because the CCC is a 2, you can't just put it on anything, but it does go on to a lot of things, right? Most cards are going to have a 4 or lower, because the idea here is the customization, right? We want people to be able to put things on their cards and create interesting combinations and effects. Travis says, what is Surge? Surge is recover 1 card in your resource zone. So this ultimately makes the card that it's on cost 1 less, but you have to pay it up front and then recover the resource after the fact. And this kind of scales. So like this is a basic essence that you can technically put on any number of cards because it's non-special. But then you go up from there and you get something like a Essence of the Bounty, which is a special essence. So you're only going to be having a play set of this in your deck at all. So you have to be really intentional with like what card this goes on or what cards this goes on, because you only get 3 of them.
+4, so you can't just be throwing this on your busted epic because it's going to be too expensive.
Yeah. So exactly. You gotta pick and choose where these cards go. And this is the part that I have the most fun with, the tinkering on the deck building side, where it's like, oh, I can move this essence over here. I can cut 1 copy of this card. I can manipulate this. I can change this, and turning all those really small knobs to kind of get the deck, going the way that I want it to go is really enjoyable. Like even outside of playing the game. Churn's number is a 4. Churn's card construction cost is a 4. So you can definitely do Churn with an infused Earth Essence. It's actually a common build. People use it pretty often.
But you couldn't use Essence of the Bounty.
Correct.
And something that I want to talk about while we're on this topic is how I think Flawed as a game is so elegant in terms of banning cards. One of the things that we talk about ad nauseum is how it feels so bad to have a game like Magic release a card that's worth, $40, $50 because it's so busted, just to have the company ban it a couple weeks later. Well, in Flawed, you have this opportunity where if you have a card that is too strong between the base card and the essence, all you have to do is ban the combination. You don't have to ban any individual cards. That way people can still play their cards in their decks if they want to, and the cards hopefully don't lose that much value. In fact, we kind of had a scenario where we banned a combination and found out that another combination was actually made it where you wanted more copies of the card in your deck, thus increasing the potential value. But it's just so nice to know that there's the potential in this game where you wouldn't ever have to ban a card from competitive play. You could just ban a combination of an essence and a card.
Yeah, that's honestly one of my biggest angles of promotion, is the simple fact that I plan on managing the format very aggressively, making sure that it's always fun to play, not letting anything get out of control, but being able to do it in a way that doesn't have to make anybody feel bad. And what Cathy just described there, the idea that I can just say, okay, Churn's a legal card, you can still play Churn, but we're going to get rid of, we're going to ban the combination of Churn plus Infused Earth Essence, for instance. It's just too much value. It's a kind of a poor example because it's not that strong of a combination. I mean, it's good, but it's not really ban worthy. But the idea being that okay, now that makes people can still play their Churns, they can still play their Infused Earth Essences. None of their cards are useless. It's just that one combination is causing a problem. It's like that, but it's not as radical because you can still technically play literally all of your cards. You just can't put an essence and a card together.
A choice restriction like JTCGs do, where you can still play things but not together.
Yeah, there have been lists Destiny actually did that for a while as well, where they said, here's a list of cards, you can only ever pick one off of this list. You can't use them in combination, and that way they broke up combos. By the way, I'm answering all these questions, watching the stream, and running a 40-person Magic event. I'm committed in all caps. Love it.
So we've gone over 3 essences, a shrine. Can we go back to that event? Because I like that event.
Yeah, we can either do that, or there are only a couple more essences. We actually just want to toss them up here and let everybody kind of see them real quick. I just wanted to do the monocolor ones to get an idea of what the colors actually kind of do. So behind Essence of the Bounty, this is your non-basic Surge 2. So this is the scaled up super version of the Infused. Then you've got this one here. This is Burgeoning Essence. This is one of the non-basics that kind of gives you a little...
I love the new Burgeoning.
Oh, yeah. This is a card that just got changed semi-recently.
We got +3 card construction costs, and then while it's on the stack, are you calling it the stack?
Yeah.
On the stack, when this card resolves, you get to surge 1, and then also when it resolves, put up to 1 target card in a dead zone on the bottom of its owner's deck. I like that.
We've already seen some really good combos.
Yeah, this card is just dead zone equals graveyard. Yes, Travis just asked dead zone equals grave. Yeah, it's the name we're giving it currently. It's a working name. We'll see.
Yeah, we still haven't even decided if resource zone is going to be
right.
sticking.
There is actually a
poll
that is linked to the Patreon somewhere toward the beginning that you can go and actually cast your votes for what you think the zones could be called. That's like a preliminary kind of first wave as far as what the zones are going to be. So feel free to go over there and answer the questions. But yeah, this card gives a lot of value. Like that comes into play effect. You can either like grab one of your own epics and get it back in your deck, or if your opponent has some type of graveyard shenanigans going on, dead zone interactions, you can like send their stuff to the bottom so they can't, recycle their cards or whatever. This card is surprisingly powerful for just like a kind of a free add-on, that you just get this on top of what you're... Yeah. Cathy just spoiling everything.
Well, Cat Rider's like set 2 or something,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Travis says we can have 3 of this, right?
Zone,
Yes.
so.
Yes.
Okay, Travis says, well, we can have 3 of this, right? So can't deck if we use them
Yep.
well.
Well, you can't deck
really
anyway,
had
right?
an issue with decking, right?
Well, there is no issue with decking because if you run out of cards in your deck, you just keep playing.
Keep playing. But
Yep.
like we've only had a decking even come up in like 1 or 2 games ever.
It's been fairly rare since we
100?
increased from 40 to 50 card deck sizes, which was, going on 3 years ago. That was like one of the first things we changed. So yeah,
I can't believe this game's been developed for 3 years.
I know.
Anyway.
It doesn't happen very often. I think AJ actually gave the like shout out of the week last week where he actually killed me with exactly 0 cards left in the library in a game we were playing at locals a couple weeks ago.
No cards in
Yep.
his library.
Yep. And that's what we want. We don't want it to be this like the biggest issue is I didn't want to put any rules in the game that dissuade the player from taking the prepare action. If you're managing your turn effectively and you're getting to the point where you can prepare and draw that extra card, we want you to do that. I don't want it to be like, oh, if I prepare too many times, I'm going to deck out because this is a grindy matchup. That's...
And a question that comes up there is, can you take the prepare action, thus like stealing it from your opponent, even if you don't have any cards in your deck?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, the action doesn't require you to draw a card. It's you've taken the prepare action. The result of that is draw a card and then pass all your actions. Like that's what happens. Yeah. Okay, there's a couple more essences we can look at here. Burgeoning is one of the real good ones.
Next.
Let's see. They're actually like mixed, so I gotta find. Okay.
Your Earth Essence, another 3 card construction cost, Earth locked, so you have to put this on an Earth base card.
Yep.
And then on the stack, when this card resolves, surge 1. Common theme there.
Yep.
And then, so C is like when if you put this essence on a unit that would enter like the combat zone.
Right.
Then it says when this card is destroyed, place it in your resource zone.
Right.
So this would go on like a unit or an item, and if that unit or item is destroyed, then it gets, instead of going to the discard pile, it moves down into your resource zone.
Nice.
And then while that card is in your resource zone, you can tap it to make green.
Yep. So this is actually a great
love
card.
This essence, it's a nice ramp, and like,
Yeah.
I hate that it's earth locked because it's like I want to put ramp in other colors.
Yeah.
But
This card actually used to not be earth locked. And it was a little too good. We actually swapped Burgeoning and Pure Earth Essence, like their effects. Like the old Pure Earth Essence used to be like something different, and Burgeoning used to be this. And we realized pretty quickly that like giving what is ultimately free ramp to like mono fire 1-drops is like probably not great. it's honestly a little strong. So yeah, we got rid of that. But that's what we do. That's what we do the testing for.
So it makes like splashing earth in whatever other color.
Yeah.
A little bit of a benefit because at least it'll help that deck ramp.
Yeah. I think our friend Ruben was talking about that today. He's like, "Well, that's stupid. I have to splash in this color to get that effect." But like, that's kind of the whole point.
That's kind of the whole point. Yeah.
And you get, if you splash earth, you get 3 of these essences on whatever earth unit you put in there, and then you can also play 3 of that just straight ramp spell.
Right.
So that's 6 cards that help you ramp.
And that's just in set 1. I mean, there are
Super-
other ramp effects. Yeah,
super
there
solid
yeah,
green splash.
tons of
Yeah.
cool stuff to do with that. All right, there are 2 mono earth essences left that we're going to look at real quick. Actually, sorry, 3. I misspoke. The first one, and this is like one of the premier earth essences. This is the card that when you're building an earth deck, you're just like, what unit am I putting this on? Like, who's going to be my big boy?
Exclusive of the Guardian.
Essence of the
yeah,
Guardian.
Love this card.
It does have a +4 card construction cost, so it's one of the more expensive ones we've looked at so far. So you can only put it on base cards that have a CCC of 0, 1, or 2.
Yeah.
Armor 1, and an additional armor 1 while defending, which is blocking.
Yep.
Very strong.
This card attacking into the any reasonable unit with this essence on it, like if you're sitting on the offensive side and you're like, oh, I really need to get some attacks in, when you're staring this thing down, you're just like, I don't wanna. I just wanna. I just don't want to attack because I'm just gonna get like I'm gonna do no damage to whatever guy this is on. Basically, get my guy eaten, and then
The tank.
yeah, essence of the tank. Basically, I mean,
I love it.
it's basically exactly
I love
yeah.
Essence of the Tank.
Oh, you're not ready for set 4, dude.
Oh, I know. Okay, 2 left. We'll pull this one. This one is actually a surprisingly important essence.
Royal Essence. With a +0 CCC, so you can put it on anything, but it
Yep.
has to be a unit.
Yep.
It's unit locked. And it gives the card the type Knight.
Jake.
This is all set 1. There's a little bit of synergy. So knights are my favorite card type. You'll see in later sets that they're pretty cracked. They're also huge, real thick. They hit legs 3-4 times a week.
Yeah.
Hit legs.
This essence is very, very good on some epics because of the knight synergy. Like you'll see a card in set 1 called Light Lance. If it targets a knight, then they gain 1 speed and accuracy, which a speed on a knight is very, very strong because the one weakness that like a lot of earth cards and knights have is that they have a lot of HP, they have a lot of power, but they're usually pretty slow. So having that extra point of speed with cards like Light Lance can be very, very strong.
Absolutely.
Welcome Bailey to the stream. He just popped on.
Oh, nice.
So Travis mentioned in the chat. He said tribal. Ooh, what are the tribes in set 1? Are cats in set 1?
There are no cats in set 1. Well, yeah, there are actually 0 cats in set 1.
Really?
Yeah, honestly, a lot of the tribal stuff is not super represented in the first set. We kind of touched on this last week where like the first set is more about kind of just defining the color pie and saying these are the core concepts of this element, these are the core concepts of this element, and like kind of going through like that. And when you look at set 2, you get a lot more of the archetypical stuff where it's okay, I'm going to build a soldier deck. They're going to have this type of card. They've got this lord, this essence, and you get to do a lot more of that like when the second set comes out. Not that it's devoid in the first set. I mean, like Jake just said, there is the card Light Lance that does care about knights being in play. So like this card still has a use even in the first set, but it's the type of card that just grows with strength the more things that come out that care about knights, right? So you just kind of keep this in your pocket and say, okay, oh look, a new knight card came out. Like, what can I do?
It says core set for core concept.
It's a weird idea, but we're going with it. And then this is the final mono earth essence, if I'm not mistaken. This one's got a cool little vehement.
There's a little sneaky thing up in the top corner.
Yeah, so I'm sure I don't think Cathy's ever actually played this one, but I know you've played essences that increase the cost. So you can go ahead and give us a rundown on how this works.
I always miss it too.
Yeah.
I'm excited to get some like actual artwork and actual templating to see how we're going to make this pop out because our current alpha print, it's so easy to miss the added cost. So this essence is a special essence. So you can only have a playset of 3 in your deck. The card construction cost is 2. On the stack, when this card resolves, you can recover up to a target unit, but it increases the cost of whatever card you put this on by 1 green. That's that like +1 fist in the top corner. So there are quite a few essences in the game that do this, that increase the, I guess you'd call it the converted mana cost, and that helps balance out the deck building. In addition to the card construction cost, adding the extra converted mana cost can keep stuff in check so nothing gets like too powerful.
Yep.
Yes, Travis.
Can it swing again? Oh yeah.
Yeah,
There's
it can.
no summoning sickness or anything like that. You just choose if there's an untapped unit, you can just choose the attack action with it.
Yep. Summoning
Also,
sickness, for those of us who are coming from games that have that like that delay, summoning sickness is essentially one action long in this game. You play your unit, your opponent gets an action to figure out if they're going to play a defender, play a kill spell, like, you know, set up some type of interaction, whatever it is that they're going to do. They get their one action to figure that out, and if they haven't done anything to stop you, when the action passes back, boom, you can attack, you can go to combat, you can swing in. Not to say that, you know, there are a ton of things they could do. You know, there are a lot of ways to stop just a single attack, of course. But the idea is that like the tempo and the pace is like quite fast. You're really making very impactful plays all the time.
Well, Mercury Ravine is set 1, right?
Mercury Ravine is set 1, yeah.
So yeah, that's an exception to the rule. I mean,
Kinda, yeah.
So when that, I guess we will get into that.
We'll get to it when we get to fire, yeah.
One of the to add something about
Go
the
ahead.
essence here is that, so like it adds a cost, but any essence that adds a actual color to the cost actually makes that card that color.
Yeah.
So, which is very important for deck building. So if you're trying to reach that 20 card threshold, and you, let's say you only have like 17 Earth cards, and you really want this cool water card, you might be able to put this on it, and you'd be able to hit that mark.
Yeah.
Also, there are some card synergies in game that like care if it's an Earth card.
I mean, we've already seen one tonight, right? Like you can put Vehement Essence on your churn, and when you play churn with Vehement Essence, your Great Oak gains armor 1 until end of turn because you turned churn into a multicolor card essentially.
Yep.
But yeah, okay, that's the essences. Mostly, you know, a couple things to keep in the back of your mind. You've got like Essence of the Tank, Loyal Essence, a bunch of Surge, you know, some little nuanced abilities, a little bit of ramp. Really cool stuff that like this color can do. It's a color that gives you a lot of interaction, and I think Jake already mentioned it early, but it's at the cost of stats, right? None of the Earth Essences give an HP, a power, or a speed. You're just getting what you get with like some other little effects and stuff. So it's definitely an interesting color to play, but there are also, you know, there are some limitations on what it can do. I have to minimize all these, and we'll get back to the actual cards. Okay, there it is.
So there are definitely Earth essences that are not mono Earth. There are dual essences
Right.
in set 1. We just didn't show them today.
Yeah, we might do a rundown, like do a separate stream of like multicolor cards and essences at some point and kind of do that, but we're going to work our way towards that for sure.
There definitely are dual essences that have abilities. They're not just straight make 2 colors. They have special stuff too.
The stars are that we're using that for rare. Travis just asked the stars next to the set number, the rarity. Yes. We're currently on a 4 rarity spread right now. And I think that's going to stay. I don't know if we're going to use stars for sure. And, you know, as you can see there, the set numbers are all blank because we don't have the whole set mapped as far as like naming conventions and stuff. Like if I go through and number all the cards and then absorb magic suddenly becomes, you know, negate magic for some reason. Now it's moved up in the set 15 spaces, and that's a huge pain to fix all that. So they're just kind of in a holding pattern right now, but
Jake has really tried to get us to call it like season 1, season 2.
yeah.
I'm just saying, as a gamer, it really tracks well with people to like call it a season.
Sure.
Absorb magic, 2 green, and it's an event.
And I honestly,
oh, shut up, Jake. Just
Understood.
straight negate target event. I feel like this type of card is present in pretty much every card game. So I think it's good to, I mean, there's no reason why you wouldn't have it in this card game.
Mhm.
I play it a lot.
Yeah.
I like this
gets played in most Earth decks.
You had a
Double
pretty
Green is a little annoying, but
you
gotta
had a
balance it.
you had a pretty ridiculous turn against me last night in one of those games that you won, where you had absorb magic, but you had the extra point of speed from research facility, and I also had absorb magic. But
Research
because
facility is one of the shrine improvements.
Yeah.
By the way, it was not an essence on this card.
correct. But ultimately, her absorb magic was 5 speed and mine was 4 speed, and by the rules of the game, in order to respond, you have to be at least as fast, if not faster. So she just absorbed my magic, and I sat there and watched it happen, and I was real upset.
You get wrecked.
We're all over here trying to steal all your money in the chat.
Yeah.
I like the base speed of 4 though, because it makes it to where you can respond to most events without having to add like an air essence of some sort to increase the speed.
Mhm.
Like I feel like most other events, their speed is like a 2 or 3, so it would make sense you
Yeah.
magic to be a little faster.
There are not a ton that are competing at 4. It's mostly your negation effects because they have to kind of be at that rate. But then there are ways to crank some up. Like there are different ways to increase speed. There are different ways, different essences. I mean, there's an essence that just outright says your card can't be negated. So that's a way to get past this. I mean, there are a lot of checks and balances, like different things that you can do. So this is I think 4 is a very comfortable space, like you said.
Jalen's entered the chat. What's up, my boy Jalen?
There he is.
Jalen, you came just in time for us to go to the next card.
One of the things I wanted to mention, actually, since we're doing like one of each version, this is an event, okay? This is a card type that it's a one and done type thing, right? You play your event, it does what it says, it goes to the dead zone. Like that's the basic crux of how events work. One of the really big caveats to that is events are also one of the only ways you can respond to your opponent's action, right? So if your opponent is, in this case, Absorb Magic, if your opponent's playing an event and you want to respond to that, you need something that can legally respond, and that the list is pretty short. It's events and activated abilities like on your cards that have speed greater than 0. Those are your only 2 ways to respond, right? So when you're building your deck and you're considering action economy, which is something that you're going to hear us talk about a lot through these streams, and as we get closer and closer to like cards in hand, you guys will start to understand this concept. But like action economy is really important, so you want to be able to do as many things as possible throughout your turn. Having a semi-critical mass of events in your decks that you can play those interactive plays on your opponent's action helps you get there, helps you be able to do things, but still try to get that prepare action in at the end of the turn to get the free card draw.
All right.
Next card.
Earth's Elite. We were just talking about this one. So we have, it's a 4 cost, 2 of anything, and then 2 Earth Essences. And it's a unit, and it's one of our knights. And as long as it's in play, it has armor 1. Card construction costs only 1, so you can put pretty much any essence on it. And it's got 4 health, 4 power, and 2 speed. It's just like a nice, solid dude.
I would like to say, in set 1, I feel like he's like, by a mile, the strongest contender for the Essence of the Guardian. That it feels almost like
you're gonna give him 3 armor, just make him
just impossible to kill. Yeah,
own knight. Yeah, I mean,
the armor is really good. I mean, he's susceptible to anything that checks speed.
And he's big enough that, like, anything that's trying to kill him, he's probably going to get out of the way on the knockback.
Yeah.
Essence of the tank intensifies. Yeah, I hear what Jake's saying. I think that this guy is pretty solid with Essence of the Guardian, but I also am... My deck building perspective is maybe a little bit different on that one, because I don't know that I want to put all my eggs in one basket. I think that this guy with his stat line and armor 1 is already pretty ridiculously tanky, in all honesty. And when you put armor 3 on him, then your opponent has the assassin or the drown or the banishment or like hatred. They like have the card that doesn't care about dealing damage. Then you just lost like one of your premier units and one of your premier essences in like one fell swoop, and they just didn't even they didn't have to worry about armor 3. They were just like,
I mean, it's the deck builder's decision. Do they want to make one big fat fatty, or do they want to spread their armor out across multiple?
Exactly. Yep. And those types of decisions are.
You don't know what you're gonna get.
Yeah, those types of decisions are really important.
About Flawed.
Essence of the Guardian, is it Earthlocked?
It is not.
It's not. Okay, so that's a good point of contention. It could go on multiple colors. So.
Yeah.
And even if it was Earthlocked, I think you still come across the same crossroads if you're playing Earth. Do you put them all in one on this guy, or do you spread it out?
I think in set 1 specifically, there's not a lot of contenders for CCC essences.
There are surprisingly more than you might remember.
Really?
Yeah, I'll just say that like you were building that deck this afternoon, and you went by a couple of cards that I was like, ooh, that could be Essence of the Guardian, and I don't think you ever even considered it. I think you just literally were like thinking somewhere else like almost the entire time. But again, we said we're going to kind of do one of each card type at the beginning. So this is an example of a unit. These are obviously your basic cards that you're going to be putting into play, doing battle with. They're going to be fighting each other. They're going to be trying to be charging through and get damage on the shrine. This is definitely the bread and butter of any given deck. Your average deck is going to be anywhere from 40 to 75% units at times. just depending on how much board presence you want, how many tricks you want, whatever. But this is, when you're looking at the list of cards and you're thinking, how am I going to win the game? It's usually through your units in some variety.
I know we haven't done air yet, but I know like the air units have so much interaction just on the unit itself.
True.
So it's like you're loading up your deck with units, but even they are kind of like events in a way.
Oh yeah, I mean we're even going to see there are a couple. One? Yeah, I think there's one air unit in the first set that has some built-in interaction as well that we'll get to in a moment.
In air?
No, in Earth. There's one in Earth that has some built-in interaction. Okay, here's an example of another type of card, item.
This is Light Lance. I think that Jake kind of alluded to this earlier. So it's 3 converted mana cost, 1 of anything, and then 2 Earth. So this is an item that is linked to a unit. That's what that little like -O dash is supposed to be, that you link it with a unit. And then whatever unit you linked it to gains accuracy, which is the ability to attack a recovered unit. Usually in combat, you can choose to attack the shrine or attack a tapped unit. So accuracy allows you to attack a shrine, a tapped unit, or an untapped unit. And then also, if the linked unit is a knight, we got that travel going on again, it gets an additional speed. And then something important to note about items is, like, you'll notice this item has a health point of 1. That's the actual Light Lance that has a health point of 1. So if you have some sort of card that can deal damage to an item, this item has a health of 1, but it doesn't like increase the health of the unit that it's linked to.
Yeah, that's a huge point. It's very like all cards have their own stats, and sometimes the stats matter, sometimes they don't clearly matter, right? Like sometimes it's in your deck you could care less if Light Lance had 1 HP or if it had 100 HP. But if your opponent has a card that specifies destroy items that have low HP, then you need to know what the HP of Light Lance is, right? Even though your deck didn't care about it. So that's one of the reasons that all cards have these certain stats. But then there are like rules just working behind the scene, right? Like any card that's in the combat zone is put into the dead zone if ever it has damage on it equal to its HP, right? So in the game right now, any cards in the Future League, anything that we've ever played, there are not ways to like deal damage to your opponent's Light Lance. But if that card exists in the future, if I created a card that said, hey, deal 1 damage to all your opponent's items, then Light Lance is dead, right? So like that's just something to like kind of keep in the back of your head, is like these stats do matter even if they don't matter yet, Yeah, deal 1 to everything.
To distinguish is like there are some items that do increase the health of the linked unit, but it'll specify like linked unit gains plus whatever HP.
Yeah.
So it'll be like in the text. It won't be in the line at the bottom here that says HP 1, power 0, speed 5. Like that's all the items properties.
Yep.
And then anything that it gives to the linked unit, it'll say it in the little text box.
Travis just asked.
I struggled with that when I was first learning it, but yeah, I get it now.
Travis just asked, Water Shrine only hits units, and that's correct. When the Water Shrine triggers, it's 1 damage to target unit. One of the other final notes to put on items here, item is its own card. You're playing it as an action. The action that you would take is play a card. In this case, with Light Lance, it's an item that links to a unit, so you have to kind of choose a unit to target with your item, and then the item comes into play, so on and so forth. Pretty similar to some other card games you may have played where you're kind of combining 2 cards to make a more powerful version. A lot of people have looked at this card and said, well, then why does it have 5 speed, right? Because we just got done talking about events and said, oh, well, yeah, events are really fast so that you can use them to interact. Light Lance has 5 speed, but I can't play Light Lance as a response to my opponent's action, okay? Because it doesn't have the card type event. And events are the only thing that you can ever respond with, right? So Light Lance has very high speed, such that your opponent cannot respond to it. The idea with the items in the game, one of the things I've tried to do is to make the auras playable, right? So like if I'm playing Light Lance at 5 speed, you're very rarely going to be able to just go kill your guy in response. Your Light Lance fizzles, goes to the dead zone, suck it, nerd.
You have to have something that's 5 speed or greater.
Exactly, which
super common.
There are a couple of cards that might be able to do it, but for the most part, your Light Lance is at least going to make it into play. And then whatever your opponent's going to do to kill your guy, it better be able to kill your guy plus a Light Lance, right? So if their kill spell cared about how fast your guy was, well, now the Light Lance is actually going to protect it, right? And there are more obvious instances of that when you've got an item that like gives armor or gives evasion or increases HP or whatever it happens to be. There are some examples that would be more prevalent as to why this matters, but the idea is I wanted your items to actually make it into play and do what they do.
Travis said, I don't think it was gone over
After
with
it's in play.
water, but if I kill the guy with an item on it, the item dies also, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
After
So there are actually two things with that. Number one, I think where your question is kind of asking, you're saying, is this equipment or is this an aura? It is much more like an aura. Okay. It doesn't like linger in play and jump onto another guy. It's whoever had it. I will also say that we've been testing a rule. I'm not 100% certain that this is going to stick, but we've been testing a rule that once your item and your guy are linked, those two cards follow each other. Okay. So an important, your question was, if I kill your guy, does your item also die? Yes. If my guy goes to the dead zone, my item also goes to the dead zone. But what if you play an event on my guy that turns him into a resource? Well, my guy went to the resource zone. The item goes to the resource zone. Because they're linked, they actually would follow each other. And the most important example is, well, what if you return my guy to my hand? Well, I get both my cards back. It doesn't just disappear, right?
But what about, is that only when you're targeting the unit? Because what if you destroy the item? The guy doesn't follow, right?
Say that again.
That would make linking them a little confusing. Are they only linked together when you're targeting the unit? If
Yes.
they had something that returned just the item, would the unit stay in play?
It would.
That's a little confusing.
It's a good question. That is a little confusing.
My sword, no.
Yeah, I'm going with it. Great,
Oh,
gr-
like
yeah,
so.
great questions. I mean, like I said, this is not a rule that we've actually written down yet, but we've been testing it. It makes items feel more playable, but these are good points. That is a little bit confusing. Why does the item follow the guy, but the guy not follow the item? I mean, the obvious answer is, well, logically,
You can let go.
yeah, you can let go.
I see a conversation starter on the Patreon.
Oh yeah, this is definitely one
Over
we can look
this.
at in the future for sure. But okay, enough lingering on items. Let's see what's next. Ah,
Might of the Earth. Okay, so this one costs 3. All 3 have to be green. It is a continuous event that is linked to an Earth unit. So lots of specifics here. So it's an event, but continuous means it stays in play, and you link it to an Earth unit. For this one, it's Earth unit. And then the linked unit gains power equal to the number of Earth cards in your resource zone. So it's build your own Griffin the Fourth, which we haven't talked about.
they haven't even
yet,
seen Griffin yet. Yeah.
Well, it's the build your own Griffin the Fourth.
Kathy only wants to spoil things.
I know. Well, we are going to talk about that one today.
You would be surprised how hard this card is to use.
Jake brings up a valid point. I think it is hard to use, but I think the payoff is enormous. I think that this card is actually really strong.
100%. My
Yeah.
favorite combo is just an Earthquake.
Yep.
So Travis brought up a good point, still talking about the items linked together, was if you put an essence on the unit that makes it go to the resource zone when it dies,
Mhm.
but your opponent plays a card that's kill your dude
Yeah.
to the dead zone,
Mhm.
where does the item go?
So the essence is a replacement effect already. The way that it behaves is it says when your card is destroyed, place it in your resource zone, rested instead, right? That's what ends up happening. The guy was technically destroyed, but the zone that he doesn't bounce from dead zone to resource zone. Destruction causes him to go resource zone.
It's just definitely something worth considering when
Yeah,
you're talking
yeah.
about that. But
Absolutely.
I just wanted to mention that because it's a good point he brought up in the chat. But
100%,
moving on to
I agree.
Might of the Earth.
Yeah, so this
Triple green's
is
a lot.
yeah, triple green's a lot. It's tough because
CCC of 6 is a lot.
CCC of 6 is a lot. This is a tough card to play, but I think this has also got such an enormous surprise factor, right? If you can get your opponent to tap low or utilize all their blockers and just you've just got that one guy left that's going to get in, and then you just slam Might of the Earth on it, and it's take 8 or take whatever. I think that this card has an enormous upside for all the tough hoops you have to jump through.
I also don't hate it as, oh wait, it's not going to work. How much does that Essence card construction cost, the one that lets you play it out of the resource zone if it's the first action?
It's a 3.
Yeah, never mind.
Yeah, that ain't gonna work.
Yeah.
I was going to say you could one of Might of the Earth in your deck, but never
Yeah.
mind. I take it back.
Yeah.
It's already balanced.
It's already been considered. But yeah, I mean, this is. I mean, I think Travis even said this is a card that probably gets better, or I'll say it the nicer way, gets better as you get more Earth cards, right? As you can get closer to a mono Earth deck, then this thing kind of starts to look, even crazier. Like the payoff is a lot better if you're playing, 45 or 50 Earth cards. Then this thing is always just pumped for a million. It's just like one-shotting.
Improvement. What is it? Research facility that adds a speed to an event.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only way to get this thing speed up. But when that works, it's a fantastic pump. I think I used a one drop to hit for like 8 or 9 before. Because
only as good as the Earth card. Yeah,
I'm like,
nice.
all right, I'm gonna attack you with my little baby. I'm gonna come in for one. Sometimes it'll be like, oh, whatever. I'll take one.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have any effects? No. Okay.
I mean, that definitely speaks to the strength of Research Facility, and like you have to play differently against that deck. Like anybody who uses Research Facility as their shrine improvement, you have to know that they could be pulling some tricks that you haven't, you're not necessarily ready for. So that's 100%, something to consider. Kind of to carry on with the typing of the card, this is a continuous event. So this is kind of two things in one, right? It's an event. It is technically legal to play it in response. It follows rules of events. It can be negated by absorb magic, so on and so forth, right? But then that extra little word in the front, continuous, means that once it resolves, it stays in play in some way. In this case, it stays in play linked to an Earth unit, right? Like that's what the card says it does. So this thing, there is timing after no blocks to make this thing a combat trick, yes. But as Jake was just saying, it's got printed speed of 0. Anything with printed speed of 0, event or otherwise, you always have to do as your own action. So you have to kind of jump through some kind of hoops to figure out how to get a speed on this. And right now in set 1, I think the only way to do it is the shrine improvement called Research Facility, which says the first event you play each turn is played with +1 speed until end of turn. So it's one more hoop you have to jump through, but yeah, the payoff is really scary.
What we got next?
We got next.
Ooh.
Oh, I like this one. So this is our
this one.
structure example of a card type.
Mm-hmm.
And it's called the Natural Palisade, and it costs 2, one of anything, and a green. And while it's in play, your shrine cannot be attacked. Now, with structures, they're just buildings like in your city. So like they can't attack, they can't defend unless they say otherwise. And most structures have something on it that, gives it the reason why you would want to play it. In this case, your shrine can't be attacked. And so when your opponent is choosing to attack with their units, I had mentioned before that you can choose to attack a shrine or an untapped unit. I neglected to mention that you can attack any structure. It doesn't just have to be the shrine. So while this is in play, your opponent's units have to attack that, and it's going to soak up at least 5 damage. Thus, giving some time to your... If you're playing green, you're already huge.
True.
But on the flip side, if you do want to play some of those weaker shrines in the other colors,
mm-hmm.
and you're thinking of splashing green, this would be a way to kind of like a roundabout way to make your shrine's health bigger, because this one's gonna deflect a lot of that damage. I love this card.
This card is surprisingly good because not only does it so you read it and you're like, oh, my shrine gains plus 5 HP, right? But not really. There are so many cases where I have this thing in play and my opponent has to do 7 damage to it to destroy it so they can start attacking my shrine, just because of the way that they've got a 3-power guy and a 4-power guy. Attack it for 7. That's all they can do.
And it's not just +5 also, because each of those attacks renders that unit vulnerable.
Yep.
You have to use an action to do that. So it's so much more than just
absolutely
giving 5, because your opponent has to use combat to get rid of around it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only 2. It's so well costed.
Yeah, this card's really strong. This is one of the cards that makes the controlling sort of Earth decks come together. This gives you the time to set up, right? If you didn't draw your ramped cards, well, maybe you drew some Natural Palisades and some Root Tenders and stuff, and you're just gonna grind the game out until you start playing your big boys. And that's those are kind of the two sides of the controlling Earth sort of shell. Is am I going to make the game? I want to get to the late game one way or the next, and this is definitely a way to go about it. But yeah, the structures are just a card type. It's technically the same card type as the shrine. The shrine is a structure, but it has the subtype shrine. And the idea is, like Cathy had kind of mentioned, your units can legally attack any structure. If the structure is in play, it can be attacked. Okay, so this guy, this card, yeah, you can think of it kind of like a continuous event. Travis said, so these are continuous events that can be hit. but they really are a different card type, and like there are, as an example, this cannot be. I can't play Absorb Magic on this, right? Because its type is structure. Whereas a continuous event, I can, since it's a type of event, can be targeted by cards that interact with events. Whereas this can be targeted by cards that interact with structures. You know, that's you start to kind of see that as you see more of the cards. But yeah, this thing just sits in play, and it's annoying. It's really tough to get through. And we haven't even talked about like, okay, I have this and I have a defender, right? So now I'm gonna like force you to make like bad attacks to try to get rid of it, and then I can defend at the opportune times, and it's just
There are quite a few structures in light whenever we get around to that color.
yes, light has quite a few
Cool.
structures. Travis says planeswalkers with no loyalty abilities, just statics, was probably a better example than events. Yeah, that's definitely a way to think of it. If you imagine this is a planeswalker that came into play with 5 loyalty, I have to attack it down to 0 and then it's gone. That's not crazy.
That was such like a kind of a crazy comparison. I can't wait till the day where we can be like, oh, it's like the flawed structures.
Yeah, there it is. So yeah, that's the one of each that we wanted to kind of look at just to get a little bit more, I don't know, I guess foundation down.
I will also add that the biggest like difference between structures and continuous events is that structures actually have synergy in like later sets, and I think even in this set a little bit.
Oh yeah. Berry Magic, a 2-cost event that costs 1 and a green, and it says move target continuous event or item from the combat zone to its owner's resource zone exhausted. So this again brings up the question of like if we're going to change that rule to where items are linked permanently to units, what happens?
Yeah, I mean
But again, we're
it's
just testing that.
yeah, we're testing that. That is like I said, that is not
yeah.
solidified.
Aside from that, this is like a nice removal card. Throw a couple in your deck, and it's got a 3 CCC, so like you do have some options in terms of what resources you want to play on it. I think depending on the matchup, this one it fills a good spot of like, okay, I can put like a dual colored essence on this and like drop it in my resource zone if my opponent's not playing continuous events or items that I really care about. But you have it like just in case, as like kind of like an index sideboard.
Yeah, that's one of the things that we've talked. I think we talked about this very briefly last week. Is I really do plan on playing this as a best of 1 game, at least in like Swiss rounds of a tournament. I think we're going to keep it at best of 1. In the event that we end up, you know, with like a Grand Prix circuit or something like that, like I could definitely foresee the top 8 being a best of 3 environment. But there aren't a lot of reasons to play best of 3 in this game. Like you get to see your opponent's shrine, so you have intelligent mulliganing decisions on the first turn of the game. You can main deck tech cards because if you ever draw one that isn't good in your current matchup, you can resource it. I think Cathy was kind of mentioning Berry Magic's got a lot of CCC space with only having a 3. You can put dual essences and utility essences on this card so that like if you don't need Berry Magic, then play it as an essence, right? Play it as a resource. There are just so few reasons to really care about this game being best of 3 that like I think the best of 1 format is actually going to look really good. I think people are really going to enjoy it and be pretty happy with how interactive and rewarding most games are. It's really rare that you just get a game where you just sat down and just get completely washed and your plays didn't matter. You're always interacting. It's really, really tough for a game to just like end. But yeah, go ahead.
I did last week. I did get into like remember me and Nick, we had our little bout, and I definitely mulliganed pretty poorly because like I was like anticipating like one strategy, but the main strategy really was a pretty big counter to the deck.
Mm-hmm.
And despite all of that, despite that his deck had a lot of answers to mine and that I mulliganed really poorly, like you said, it was a really razor thin game. So I honestly think best of 1, because that was a pretty competitive setting. I mean, money was on the line.
Yeah. You guys were in it to win it.
I personally don't think. I think best of 1 is fine.
All right, next card. This is one of Jake's favorite.
Wake. 4 cost, 3 and a
Dude,
green
I
event.
love
Deal 3
Earthquake.
damage to all structures. And Earthbound, so if you happen to choose to put an Earth Essence on this one, it also gains the text, exhaust all units with power less than the number of cards in your resource zone.
Which is such a good combo with Griffin and Might of the Earth.
And I like that its speed is 0. Like, it's already pretty strong. You don't need to be doing this at instant speed, unless you choose to, you know, put the essence on it. But
Shrines are structures, yes, Travis. This is burn. Yep.
so does this CCC of 3 allow you to play the Earth Air combo that increases its speed.
It does,
but
yeah,
still gives it Earthbound.
but then you're increasing its cost to 5.
Then it would be 5. So nice balancing. So like if you wanted to, you could give it speed to play it, in response to your opponent's action or something, and then still get the Earthbound ability. But then you're waiting to play it till turn.
I've actually played exactly that version in a deck before, and 5 is a ton, but you kind of play it as a time walk, because you're playing a heavy ramp strategy where you can get ahead on resources, and then you're playing this for 5 when they go to make like a really important push, and it's just like, because I'm ahead of you on resources, like none of the guys you could play were like strong enough to not get exhausted, right? So now it's just like, okay, I play Earthquake, exhaust like 3 of your guys in response to your combat, then I get to prep, and you just get a really big like jumpstart turn there where they thought they were just going all in, and you just said no, we're gonna go to the next turn.
I have a question for you, because Travis mentioned just kind of jovially. I'm deaf down for money matches once TTS is up. So I know that we have TTS already up with the borrowed artwork.
Sure.
Is it easy or hard to get TTS going with this artwork that is like?
So me and Kenny just made 2 decks today, and it was a process.
So there are 2 ways to go about that. Number 1, I can Photoshop individual cards one at a time, base card plus essence, and build a deck. It took Jake and I a couple hours to build a couple decks today, because it is not quick. The alternate way to do it is to image process all of the cards with all of the essences, which is much longer. It is I would say there are 80 essences. I'll have to do each one as its own sort of image process, and that like one iteration takes somewhere between 5 and 15 minutes to do all the commands and like actually get it all layered, rename the files, save them, delete the ones that are illegal, like do what needs doing, and then I have to do that 80 times. So it's hours and hours and hours of work before I can have a full card database with these new images on it. But that is the goal. That will exist.
Yeah. And we're gonna do just like 2 starter decks for the Learn to Play.
Exactly.
To start.
Which is what Jake and I did in a couple hours today, and we're going to do that again to get some proper, like, I don't want to say like noob decks, but something a little easier to jump into and kind of get the mechanics.
Yeah, and I think also like one of the things we talked about is once all of the cards with all the essence combos are available, potentially adding another tier to the Patreon that just let you jump on and play with whoever, whenever.
Yeah, that's almost certainly going to come.
As pricey as the one where you get to play with Ken himself.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like
no, for sure.
Like $10 tier or something that lets you have access to the TTS, but that's down the road.
100%. So yeah, Earthquake, sweet little card. I mean, it's a little bit atypical. I mean, Travis did say this is burn. Earth doesn't get a lot of burn. In fact, I think this might be one of the only cards, but.
Yeah, we completely stripped. Travis was asking about the borrowed artwork. We completely stripped all of the borrowed artwork from everything, like Facebook profile pictures, banners, like everything, because we just don't want to run into anything. There are rules in terms of like fair use, and you can use stuff to an extent, but we were like, I don't want to mess with it. So we just changed everything to either something that we created or something that was like listed as fair use.
Yeah. So these icons right here came from like some like free to use website where they just say like put the artist credit on it and you're good to go, like no trouble. It's kind of like a movement.
We do have 1 month of Patreon income already, and we're already in talk with
4
or 5 different artists, so we should be having art.
We're doing it. We are doing it. Yep. So
I believe it.
Next card.
Elite Vanguard. Okay. Oh, this isn't the one I wanted. Never mind. Elite Vanguard is a nice little 1-drop, 1 green. He's a human knight, and he has armor 1 while defending. Card construction cost is 4, so there's not too many options for this guy. 3 health, 2 power, 1 speed. I think he's just a solid one. He's just a good 1-drop. If you're playing green, like totally reasonable to have a set of this guy.
He's a great guy.
Great guy.
I personally know him.
Sweet, real sweet guy.
Cathy just said she said, okay, this guy's got a 4 CCC, not a ton of options for this guy. That's true on one side of the coin, where it's like, yeah, you can only play 2s and 1s on him, so you're not going to have a ton of options. But the flip side of that is that of all the like infused essences and the 2 cost essence, the 2 CCC essences that are available to put on this guy, they're like all kind of good. As far as like, do I want this guy to have some extra HP? Can he, a point of speed? Like, give him some evasion? Like, pretty much all of the options do something that, like, depending on how your deck's trying to play out, is valuable on a 1-drop. So this card's actually, like, surprisingly important for looking as simple as it is.
Infused essences are all very strong.
They are. Already forgot the essence costs. Yeah.
Go to the next one.
I'll go to the next one.
I want to see my dude.
There he is.
There he is. Expert combatant. I love this guy. So listen, he costs 3, 2 and a green, and with ramp, that's like not even a big deal. Accuracy, so he can attack pretty much anything, whether it's rusted or not. His HP is only 2, but his power is 5, and that's just why I like him. And his speed is 2.
True, he's a king.
He's just such a puncher, and he has accuracy. So you're just like, oh hi. It's almost like a destruction spell.
I'm glad you said that.
When I play him, I'm like, which guy am I gonna kill?
Because that's
I'll die too, but that's fine.
I had kind of spoiled earlier that there's a guy in Earth that is basically interaction. This is it. This is one of the ways that Earth interacts is by having accuracy units so that they can just precisely attack into your units. Removal is the word you're looking for. Yeah, I mean,
yes, thank you. That was the word I was looking for. Removal.
And the interesting thing about this guy is if you play him onto the board at the right time and your opponent doesn't have their own removal for him, you can often get multiple uses out of him. It's not impossible for him to run into something, kill it, go to the next turn, and him be there in play still and like be able to go again.
You know what else he does? He kills that structure in 1 hit.
He does with 5 power.
You can't attack their shrine for 5 health. He's just like, you're done.
The CCC of pure Earth Essence is a 3, so it doesn't fit on this card, Travis.
I think this one's just like regular Earth Essence and infused Earth Essence.
Yeah, there are some other slight options.
This card is because like he's so slow and like squishy. He gets air essence a ton, which makes him like such a threat.
Very common for this guy to take the infused air essence that gives +1 speed. Makes him stronger in combat.
Yep.
You get light lance on this guy, he's actually terrible. He got accuracy 2.
Yeah. I mean, you kid, but like 4 speed expert combatant is just killing everything. Like don't sleep on that.
I love expert combatant.
Yeah, this card's good. This card's real good. Here he is.
This is the epic unit for Earth. He is one with the Earth. So again, being that he's an epic unit, you can only play one in your deck with the name Griffin the Fourth. So like in the future, there may or may not be other Griffin the Fourths in the future league. So you'd have to decide like which Griffin was in your deck. He costs a whopping 6, but Earth has ramp in it, so it's not that bad. 4 and 2 green, and he is a human king. And while he's on the stack or in play, this card gains power equal to the number of cards in your resource zone. Not Earth cards, just cards in general. So all the ramp and stuff works really well with him. Remember how I said earlier, what was it called? Might
of the Earth, yeah.
So Might of the Earth is like build your own Griffin the Fourth, because that is something similar where you got the unit gain power equals number of resources.
Right.
And then if you throw an Earth Essence on him and he is Earthbound, he gains when this unit is destroyed. Place him in your resource zone exhausted.
Yeah.
He is one with the Earth for sure.
Kenny, I have a question that doesn't really mean much to the stream.
Okay.
But, like, when you get the arts, are you gonna like show what you had and be like, all right, use this as inspiration?
I don't know how much I can or want to do that, but on this one in particular, since you've seen my vision, if you will,
yes,
we're sticking to a lot of that.
Okay.
We're sticking to a lot of that.
Fantastic.
Yeah. We're not gonna whenever I find the artist that is going to be responsible for bringing Griffin the Fourth to life, I want them to bring him to life. So, yeah.
Let's go. Pog.
Just received word that we are in fact on the big TV at Locals.
Nice.
Hi Locals.
Hi, Locals.
Hello Locals, if you can hear us.
Shout out.
She might not be able to hear us, but anyway.
Not even playing Flawed.
Oh,
If you're
jeez.
playing in the Magic release and having a poor time, you can just rest assured that there's a better game on its way. Join the Patreon. Patreon.com/Flawed Card Game. Okay, next card.
Yeah, I just want to really briefly talk about this guy one more time. Like this is a card that is it's one of the big payoffs for playing some of those ramp effects, playing, Earth guys. This is a card that's really good with Loyal Essence. You can turn this guy into a knight, and now you can put Light Lance on him. Now you can give him accuracy with Knight Captain in the future sets.
So
you can do a lot of really cool stuff by making him into a knight. But like the idea here is that this guy just is really in tune with his people. He gets stronger the more resources you have. You've got your other characters are dying off with pure Earth Essence and becoming resources. That just makes him even stronger. This card ends games. I mean, Travis mentioned it a while ago before we actually got here. There are tons of turns where you could be playing the like Earth mid-range type strategy. You have turned the corner against whatever it is that you're playing, and you've put the pressure on, and your opponent's like, okay, I got to defend. I play my kill spell. I do whatever. And you were able to just like play Griffin kind of toward the end of the turn, and their defenses are down, and it's just like attack for 9, attack for 10, attack for 11. Like these things, it connects and games end. They absolutely end. So yeah, this is one of my favorite characters. I'm really excited to bring him to you guys, and hopefully, as you guys are, a lot of you are talking about the art right now. Hopefully, when we finally have some real art for this, you guys will all be as excited as I am.
I just hope he has a big dumb sword.
I hope so too.
Spoiler.
Grizzled Crop Keeper, 1 and a green. He's
my favorite knight.
When he is in play, you can, for your action, you can choose to rest this creature and surge 2. And you can also choose to rest this unit and produce a green. So he's kind of like
Well, that's no, that's resource
Llanowar
zone.
Elves. Oh,
It is not Llanowar Elves. Yeah, this is important to notice.
I didn't see the little C and the little R.
Yeah, so these little symbols are copyright and registered or whatever these are. These will not be the final versions, but this is what we're using right now to stand for Combat Zone and Resource Zone. And
I messed up earlier when the Dead Zone also threw me off because there's another one that's a D with a circle around it.
The idea with this card is that Earth, you cannot float resources. No. The idea with this card is that Earth gets access to one more dual essence, essentially, right? Yeah. This guy can already make Earth, so if you put a fire or an air or a light or a dark or whatever other color you put on him, in the resource zone, he's always going to make one of those two colors, right? So this is a really, honestly, I'll pat myself on the back for this one. This is a really elegant way to give extra mana fixing to Earth in a game that doesn't really allow you to play rampant growth, right? You can't like search your deck for like a given resource and put it into play because that's just not the way the cards work, right? So this guy's a huge stopgap in that regard. He's also just like a 2-cost, like 4 HP kind of get in the way idiot, right? Like sometimes you just have to play this guy and like defend with it once or twice because you're trying to stretch the game out. So yeah, Travis just said hello staple card. Absolutely, this card goes in a lot of decks that we've played up to this point, and it's just.
I want to clarify something. When he's in the resource zone, you would get to choose: do you want to rest him to make a green, or rest him for his essence? You don't get both.
Exactly.
You pick one or the other, but it gives you an extra option.
Yeah, it's going to be a dual essence, dual land, just like you would think in any other game, right? It is one of the two colors.
Like you were saying, it kind of is like a mana dork since you can surge too.
Right.
And the 4 HP is nothing to shy about. That's a big butt.
No, This dude has blocked 3 damage on multiple occasions.
This guy will get in the way of a grunt and then like go to the next turn, and you like use him to surge to like create a really like powerful turn afterwards, and he's still sitting there with 1 HP, and your opponent's like, God, do I attack him or do I just not care?
Here's the real strategy. You put Loyal on this guy, get some Light Lance on him, all of a sudden you're surging fast.
Yeah, I hate that you just came up with that because it's terrible, but I don't want this guy to have speed.
Travis said that he's considering 3 or 4 different colors, and I'm like, or maybe 3 or 4 different decks.
Yeah.
We've done 3 colors, no problem, but I don't know if 4 colors has really been.
There have been like a handful of 4-color decks, yeah.
I looked up for a second and was like, Crop Keeper costs 4? What? I didn't realize you changed the card.
I will say that like I've built a handful of decks. The better you get at deck building, the more colors you can take on. Like I can make a 3-color deck and get relative success with it. But like once you get to like 4 colors, I haven't seen 5 colors yet, I don't think. But once you have like 4 colors, your deck has to be very, very fine-tuned. because
There it is, Jalen. Grizzled crop keeper.
Can be
Judge.
quite bothersome.
Judge.
Yeah.
So,
Sorry. Which one are we still talking about? This guy, or are we going on?
no, I was gonna start reading the next one.
Okay, yeah,
This-
here he
this
is.
is a new one, Nullifier. You just made this card, like.
Yeah,
couple
this
days ago?
this guy is filling. But right now in the set design, we have a couple of flex slots available inside of each color for like fixing issues or like rounding out some of the rarities or whatever as I'm really making the final push to get this product out, making sure that it's a fun experience, that it's got everything it needs for people to really get into the game and enjoy it. And we found a little bit of a hole as far as continuous event interaction was concerned, and we also found a bit of a hole on like how many nights there were, and so there was a bunch of different things. This guy kind of just filled like a big missing spot inside of set one. So brand new card. Cathy can go ahead and, I mean, there are people in here who have played Flawed before many times who have never seen this card. So hit us with it.
Yeah, that's true. This is Nullifier. It costs 4, 1 and 3 green, and it is another human knight unit. And if you choose to put an Earth Essence on this guy, and he is Earthbound, he will gain the text at the end of turn. Your opponent must choose and destroy a continuous event they control. And outside of that, I mean, he's just fat. He's another 4/4.
Yeah.
And only 2 at the CCC, so you have, quite a few options in terms of like which type of Earth Essence you want to throw on him. I think, if you're playing this, he's going to be Earthbound. Nullifier. And again, like, speaking to Ken's desire, way in the future, talking about tournaments and his desire to have the game be best of 1 in Swiss, this helps alleviate the need for any sort of sideboard.
Right. Having cards like this, and one of the reasons I love this guy in particular is, yes, he's an answer to continuous events. Sure, that's like kind of obvious with what his ability does, right? But he's also just not a complete throwaway, right? If my opponent has no continuous events in play and I like draw this guy for turn and I don't have a lot of options for my turn, I'm not going to be like super upset just like jamming a 4/4/1. Like, yeah, he's slow, but he's got a pretty good sized body. Like he's going to be able to tangle like a little bit. Jake was actually building a deck this morning. Jake ended up including this guy. I don't think you drew it much against me, Jake, but like
he went in the Resource Zone most games. Were the 2 games we played because you just didn't play any continuous events.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say,
yeah,
but
he was a body. I mean, he's thick.
It's the classic example, though, right? Like, you have that tech card. You were playing against a Darkfire aggro deck that didn't have any continuous events. Well, send it to the Resource Zone,
He's taking somebody with him.
A lot of the time, yeah. A lot of the time.
I feel like the worst part, sometimes it feels bad. Like, most of the time it feels like he's taking like a 1 or 2 cost with him, which can feel bad a bit.
Yeah.
But
then he's like, he's still around to take another hit, right? Yeah. I think this card's pretty reasonable. I'm excited to get a little more use out of this guy and like see kind of how he behaves going forward. But I think he's doing a good job at what he's doing. All right. We've talked about this one a little bit already.
Planting. Here it is. 1 green event.
So
Place the top card of your deck in your resource unexhausted. Just nice, solid. Doing it ramp, and also very common to put the Surge Essence on it.
Yep.
So you get a resource exhausted, and then you can unrest 1. So like you have to play it on turn 2, but it kind of only costs 1.
Kinda.
If you choose to put that essence,
Yeah.
on, which you don't have to.
Yep.
Super good for Great Oak.
Now,
Yes.
I would say decks that are primarily green, like if you're running the green shrine, are almost guaranteed to play planting. But if you're splashing green, I don't know how much you play planting. What do you think, Ken?
It depends. I mean, I think that it's 50-50. I think you look at the deck and what you're trying to do. Like, what are your plays on turn 2, right? If you are playing a deck that has like a couple of reasonably like good setup plays on turn 2, but don't really have a lot of turn 3 like options, then maybe you are playing planting just for the games where you can skip from 2 to 4, right? And even in the exact example like you're saying, like if your deck is just splashing Earth and you don't have a ton of Earth, it's like, well, yeah, but I mean I have enough that I can play some Earth, so sometimes I might want to just play this on 2 and get ready to start playing my 4s,
And also, it helps you get to your Griffin the 4th faster, and
True.
also helps make your Griffin the 4th bigger.
Yep, it does it all. And triggers your Great Oak. Like, this is just like the quintessential Earth card. Like,
Yeah, that's right.
And all that being said, like, fantastic card. I've made Earth decks without planting.
yeah, same.
Yeah, I don't feel like it's super overpowered or anything. I know earlier, I think before the recording started, we were comparing it to, what was the Kaijudo card?
Sprout.
Sprout.
Yeah.
But being that you have to actually use resources to cast this, you're not getting it for free. Like
Yeah, there's no Shield Blast. And there's also very much... One of the other things we were talking about before the stream is the action economy, right? If I'm on turn 2 playing this as my action, and then my opponent's just like, okay, prep, and they've just drawn a bonus card, didn't even bother to attack into my Great Oak that I just gained armor on because like I spent all my time just playing planting. Now I'm down 2 cards because I had to play a resource to be able to even play planting on turn 2, and I've also played planting out of my hand. My hand is looking, emaciated at this point. I'm low on cards already compared to my opponent who's just like, yeah, turn 2, like, play a guy, prep, right? Like they just were able to kind of
enter research facility.
Yeah, research facility does make this card a lot better. Research, you guys are going to hear a lot out of research facility.
In Earth specifically.
In Earth specifically, because they have quite a few 0-speed events. They have quite a few low-speed everything. So bringing speed increases into the Earth-based decks is usually a good idea.
Root Tender. Okay, here she is. So this is a unit. I say she because the borrowed artwork is female. Cost 2, 1 and a green. It's a human. When this card enters play, you may heal 2 damage from target structure. And then, when this card enters play, you may heal 2 damage from the Great Oak. And I keep telling Ken, if you're playing the Great Oak as your shrine, you're playing 3 Root Tenders. It's too good. She heals 4 and then chump blocks whatever attack, so she essentially heals more than 4. And again, we've already spoiled that the Great Oak becomes a unit in later sets. And you'll notice that this says heal 2 damage from the Great Oak. It doesn't say the shrine, the Great Oak. So it could be the shrine, or it could be the future
if you guys ever are lucky enough to read the new Great Oak, it doesn't matter.
I mean, yeah.
It's just a cool thing to know.
It's a cool thing to know. Yeah.
Heal 2 damage from the shrine, the Great Oak. It says the Great Oak, and that's intentional.
Oh god, dude, when set 4 hits the fan, it's over.
No, because he's gonna take Tierces out of set 4, and I'll be upset about it.
He should, rightfully so.
Whoa.
Staying on target though.
So
I think
Cathy,
it's super solid, and you've played Root Tender in non-Great Oak decks, and it's been super solid.
No. I think that is incorrect. I think that a 2-cost heal 2 is not strong enough.
Because it chumps as well.
But it's a card out of your hand. Like, imagine what that card could have done if it was something good. No, I'm actually lower on Root Tender than most people. I think that the card is definitely worth it. I actually tend to play it as a 2 of. I'll go ahead and throw Cathy under the bus real quick.
I know you designed the game.
I tend to play it as a 2 of for deck space and also for the essence that goes on it, which is something that we'll investigate down the line. But this is actually one of the cards that I like to turn into a knight. But it doesn't make sense why I would turn it into a knight until you start seeing future set cards. So it's not really worth considering right this minute. But
yeah, Kenny's on drugs. Set 1, play 3 of these. Like, or in any set. Like
maybe
it's a heal 4. It's so good. It's at its best with Great Oak.
Yeah.
And kind of really dog water.
I don't think the heal 2 for 2 is like worth it. Like, not getting the Great Oak trigger, I think, just puts it a little too low. But we'll see.
I mean,
Travis wants to know: are there any reanimate stuff to recur this with?
I'll just say not in set 1. That's what I'll say. Not in set 1.
But there are other heal type cards in set 1 as well.
Yeah.
You don't have to just use that one.
True, very true.
Stalwart Defenders cost 2, 1 and a green, another human knight. It's the trend
He's missing something.
The core set. And he has Steadfast, which is defends without exhausting, so he can essentially defend multiple times in a turn. 6 health, but to offset that, he only has 1 power and 1 speed. So he's basically just a blocker. Good. Yeah. Good blocker.
This guy does a surprisingly good job, just like...
He's natural parasite.
He's just another way to slow down the game on turn 2, which matters. You know, a lot of these Earth decks, they really hit their stride later on, depending on what color you're playing with it. Like, Mono Earth is definitely a thing that you can do, but as you're looking through the card list, you're going to see that they are a little bit low on like actual interaction. They have answers to like events, and they have berry magic and stuff like that, but they're outright just like kill a guy is kind of low. So yeah, Earth is the tank tribe. I mean, honestly, all the units are like these big armor-clad knights. Like most of them are on horseback. Like they're very like honor-bound characters, and like very they like do their thing.
I would like to add though, like since we have had the fortune to see like future sets, it's not super tribal. The game as a whole.
Oh no, yeah,
Like
absolutely
there are
not.
tropes and themes, but
Yeah.
it's not like you're pigeonholed. It kind of reminds me of Vanguard, where everything is like hyper tribal.
Yeah,
It
it's
might
not that.
seem that way because there's only one set that we're talking about, but it's definitely not that overall.
Yeah, the vast majority of your decks are 2-color decks, right? You pick your shrine, you determine your core strategy based on the shrine and like the cards that go with that shrine, and then it's like, who am I asking for help? Who's going to be my supporting cast, coming in and making really rounding the deck out to like do what I want it to do.
Like even the knights that you have slotted for future sets, even those knights are not always just like thick blockers.
Right. I mean,
they themselves even evolve over time.
There's a set 2 card called Crazed Knight that it's very much not just a blocker. We'll throw that one in
Like
there.
every single knight's just going to be a big fat blocker.
If I'm not mistaken, it's actually just impossible or next to impossible for that card to actually defend. But in any event,
it's not just without reason. It goes with
no,
the
yeah,
line, obviously.
yeah, absolutely.
All right.
Next.
Oh, got into events. Sudden strength costs 2 and a green.
I've never ever seen it played.
Target unit gains power equal to this card's power. Speed equal to this card's speed, and armor 1 until end of turn. The unit cannot be destroyed this turn. So I think this card is just the essence of flawed, if you will pardon the pun, because like it's only got a CCC of 1, right? So there's so many options. Like, what essence is your opponent gonna put on this? Are they gonna jack up the power, jack up the speed, do a little bit of both? And like you really can't play around sudden strength in a matchup. You have to see which version of sudden strength they're playing. I love it.
Yeah, this is...
It's also like literal godhood.
Yes, Travis says if I just slap this on anything with Steadfast, it's a fog. Yeah, it is. Cathy and I were actually talking about this card a bit today because it had come up in conversation. I think we were talking about how like kind of what we just mentioned. Earth doesn't have necessarily like a ton of interaction, so like how does it win the board, right? Cards like this, you just make literally an invincible guy and then use that guy to the best way you can, right? Sometimes you can play things like Vehement Essence or stuff like that to like recover that guy and get extra attacks. If you put this type of a buff on like a unit with accuracy and then play Vehement Essence to attack with it twice, that's literally just like 2 kill spells guaranteed. Like you're definitely just killing 2 things. And I think like this card, as Cathy was just saying, there are a lot of ways to build it, right? You're going to increase the power, increase the speed. Maybe you put like Essence of the Bounty so you can surge 2 so it becomes like almost free. You can even put Vehement on this card and make it where you're giving it the buff, granted like a small version of the buff because you're only going to get 1 power and 1 speed, but you're giving it the buff, making it indestructible essentially, and armor and all this stuff, and recovering it. You're just doing all of it at once. So like ton of options, like ton of ways to play this card. Just add trample onto Griffin. No trample. We're never doing. There will never be trample. Not a thing. Yeah, we're not playing with that ability. That is, I think, one of the like least interactive and like most painful abilities in any game ever. As shown by how Force Will ultimately just like very nearly got rid of Pierce. They like kind of stopped printing it after a couple of years. Very, very few cards had Pierce as the game went on and on.
I like how Ken has so much experience with so many different games because like you're just like, yeah, I'm not doing that. I'm not playing that in my game at all.
It just feels so bad. Whenever you're staring down the barrel of like a big trampler, it's just like, oh, well, I guess nothing I can do matters.
Griffin the 4th of trample would be just like,
yeah, it would just be it'd be insane.
So we have another continuous event, Take Root, which costs 1 green, and you link it to a unit, and the linked unit cannot attack. So this is, I think the continuous event that we showed earlier was one that you would put on your guy.
Yep.
This is one that you would put on your opponent's guy.
Yeah, exactly. And some of the cards that have the link symbol will specify, like we saw Might of the Earth specifically said it had to be an Earth unit, right? This card right here just goes on any given unit, so you can technically put it on one of yours, but you probably wouldn't want to. You're more than likely going to want to attach it to one of your opponent's guys so that he can't attack anymore. And there are other caveats in there. Like there are a couple. There's like an item in one of the sets coming up here that specifically says like an item linked to unit you control, because what it does, like whatever the effect text is on it, you can't. Like it would essentially break the game if it were on your opponent's unit. Like the rules don't make sense. So the card will always kind of, what we said this last week to Jake. Reading the card explains the card, right? Like it's all right there.
Thanks.
RTFC.
But yeah, this is a card that Jake plays a lot. I actually want to hear a little feedback from him on this one.
It's fantastic because Earth doesn't have a lot of interaction. In fact, there's very little interaction through events.
Mm-hmm.
And that game we played earlier, this card was super strong. Like it's really good against aggro because you just shut their card down. They can't attack. They can't do damage. And also, I like getting speed on it, either with rushing essence or a research facility.
Yeah.
They go to, let's say they have 2 or 3 guys out. They go to attack. You completely cut off one of them, and then you also get armor on the Great Oak.
Yep, very true.
I really like Take Root.
No, yeah, Take Root's a nice role player, especially in the first set. It just gives Earth a little bit of it's technically interaction in the weirdest way, right? Like if they've got one guy that's very clearly their main offensive threat, this will handle it. This will sit him down, put him in the corner, and give you the time to figure out how to get around him otherwise.
So Travis was asking, with the theoretical rules change following items following things they're linked to.
Mm-hmm.
Were you talking about continuous events also following things?
Yeah, so that would be.
That seems like busted. If you bounce their guy to their hand, you get your Take Root back.
Yeah, if they bounce, so the counter argument is, what if they play a card like one of the set 2 water themes is that they can bounce their own stuff, right? So I Take Root your guy, you play your bounce effect, get your guy back, and my Take Root just goes away. Your bounce card became continuous event removal.
I'm gonna say it now, even though we haven't had the formal discussion. I don't think that linked stuff following it wherever it goes is gonna end up sticking.
Okay.
Personal opinion, I don't like it.
Okay.
But that's not what the stream's about.
Whose resource? So Travis says whose resource. So Take Root being played on your opponent's card is still under your control. So I definitely see the ambiguity of what you're asking, because he's saying, okay, if you put this on a guy that has pure Earth Essence as its essence, and then that guy later dies, well, the Take Root's going to follow him to the resource zone, right? My answer would most likely be, okay, the pure Earth Essence guy goes to their resource zone, your Take Root will go to your resource zone. But again, this is all quite hypothetical, since we haven't really sussed this rule out yet, so we won't chase it too far.
Video in a year's time, remember when we had the stupid idea to link stuff together? That was dumb.
Be nice.
Woodland Protector. Oh, I thought we were doing all of these.
Oh, this card is so good.
So we got 2 and a green, a human ranger, and while it's in play, Earth structures you control gain armor 1. So that includes that annoying little structure that makes it where you can't attack your opponent's shrine.
It does include that one.
It also gets armor.
The shrine also gets armor.
I think I remember you saying that this counts if you're playing the Great Oak, because it is an Earth structure.
Absolutely.
Yep. It is an Earth structure. So as long as you have this in play, it also would count your shrine getting armor 1.
Yep.
In addition to, is this the one you wanted to talk about with armor stacking?
It is, yeah. I mean, you're hitting it. I mean, you're basically seeing exactly how this type of a deck plays out. You can clog the ground with natural palisades, woodland protectors, make it really hard for your opponent to deal your damage. Turn the corner, land a griffin, something else. Get your big beat sticks in play and just go to town. Yeah, this is a good one for pure Earth Essence. You can. Travis just said this is a good one to put the death resource onto this guy. That's the pure Earth Essence, because either they kill this so that they can actually start doing good damage to your shrine, which gives you the free ramp, or they are like, oh, I don't want to ramp them, so they're kind of forced to ignore this, but then your shrine's just joke's on you, I just have armor forever. And yeah, the kind of final caveat I wanted to mention is this card, Woodland Protector, would stack with the Great Oak. I think we mentioned this in the stream last week, where any of the keyword abilities that have a numerical value to them, multiple instances of those add up. So this guy giving armor 1, and then if you play a planting, for instance, your Great Oak would have armor 2 that turn, so it would reduce all damage by 2. Same thing if you happen to get out double Woodland Protector, that's armor 2, and then maybe can trigger up to armor 3, whatever. Like you can really make, board states that are really tough to crack through with cards like this, the Natural Palisades and so on and so forth.
How many cards do we have left?
Not many. I think we're right here about to be at the end, which is good because we're actually up over an hour and a half already. We've been kind of really going in, but we're getting close. It actually might be it's the last one.
X. I'm gonna give it to you.
I'm gonna give it to you.
True King's Sword. This is Excalibur, but it's just X, and it costs 2 green. And this is an epic item, so you can only have 1 X in your deck.
Mm-hmm.
And this item is linked to a unit, and it's got quite a few things it does. This is the one where I messed up and I noticed a little dead zone with the circle. So it's got 4 abilities in play, and then 1 if it's in the dead zone discard pile. The first in play is +1 speed if the linked unit is Earth.
I want to pause on that really quick because this is something that a lot of people get hung up on this one right here. Okay. This does not say that the linked unit gains +1 speed. This means that X gains +1 speed. Okay, and that's really important as you go down the ability list here. You're going to see eventually this card has an effect that you need to be able to use in response. So the only way to essentially gain access to that ability is to link this to an Earth unit.
Yeah. The other way would be, it would say linked unit gets +1 speed.
Exactly.
If linked unit is an Earth.
Yep.
And it's not phrased that way.
Yep. So go ahead and push in.
Next is the linked unit gains the type King. Next is the linked unit gains this card's power, which as it's printed is 2, but your essence could always change that. And then the 4th ability is destroy this card, meaning X, and negate target event. So in order to negate an event, like on the stack, which we haven't talked in detail about, but you would have to have a speed equal to or higher than the event you're trying to negate, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So that's why the +1 speed.
That's why the +1 speed. Or there are other ways. I mean, you can give this an essence that increases speed. There are different ways to gain speed on this. But ultimately, if you wish to use it for that negation effect, then you're most of the time going to be negating your opponent's like 0 and or 1 speed events, which, believe it or not, there are a ton of. We already saw a bunch of them in Earth right here, but there are some really powerful events in some of the other colors that are printed at 0 speed. So you in the back of your head, you can kind of think sorcery speed. They're always going to take an action. You have to declare the action, play a card to use them. And X is a really good coverage against those because if they go for these giant like windmill slam events, you just be like, nope, I will destroy my X and negate your event.
But it has to have at least 1 speed.
Exactly. Yep. You can never respond with 0 speed. Exactly.
And the last ability is, I don't know if you can tell on the recording there, but it's a D with a circle around it for discard pile, dead zone. So it's not when it's in play, it's when X has been destroyed already. And so while it's in the discard pile, you can pay 2 green, play this ability only if you control a king, and return X to your hand.
Yep.
And it has its own health of 5.
And if you haven't, you should probably go watch the movie, what's it called?
LOL.
So I'm wondering, we had mentioned a lot before about how like items have to have a health points.
Yeah.
Because of like the rules, but this one has a health of 5. That makes me think that was intentional.
Breaking X.
It's huge.
I will say that right now it's future proofing. There isn't really a reason for it right now. But yeah, the idea, like I think I mentioned earlier, like if I created an event that said like deal 1 damage to all enemy items, then Light Lance just got blown to smithereens. But X is just like, okay. Like, who cares, right?
Says, it's the True King's Sword.
THAF, as foretold. But yeah, I think that brings us back to the beginning of the Earth cards here. Awesome rundown. I actually, not that I didn't already know obviously what all these cards do, but it's really sweet to like hear you guys talk about them and kind of give that little bit of feedback.
The rest of the cards once we went through the different card types in detail.
And we did all the essences as well.
Yeah. So if anyone's watching this recording on the playback on YouTube later, and you still want to become a patron subscriber on Patreon, you can join at patreon.com/Flawed Card Game. And there's lots of different tiers to support, ranging from $1 a month to $25 a month. So whatever you want to support for this little indie startup game, all the now is going towards legally purchasing art from artists locally and around the world.
Oh,
so
local, absolutely.
Different.
Travis just said we should mention the link will be in the description. Yeah, we're gonna have the link to all the different social media and everything will be in the VOD for this when it's all said and done.
Travis keeping me on in check.
Make
Don't
sure we know what's
forget
up.
to subscribe
Yes, please.
to YouTube.
What was that, Jake?
I have a quick question. Did you still have the idea of having like an individual artist for each color?
It is something that I would love to do. I don't
think
know
it's a
how
cool
feasible
idea.
it's going to be. If I can find, 6 enterprising young individuals who want to really commit themselves to a project and aren't, super expensive high-end professionals that I could never possibly pay to do 20 pieces of artwork, then that would be awesome to assign, an entire tribe to a person and be like, hey, create this, make us feel what this feels like. I would love it. But I just don't know. I don't know if we're going to be there or not. So we'll have to see. We're talking to people. We're gonna see what we can do, and it's definitely an option.
If you're watching this and you are an artist that does comic book style artwork, you can message Flawed Card Game on Instagram
Please.
if you're looking to get paid for your work.
But I guess for now we're going to go ahead and kind of wrap this one up as far as the Earth cards are concerned. About an hour and 40 minutes of really great discussion. I really enjoyed the community feedback tonight. A lot of great questions. Super excited to push forward. We're going to be having, like I said, the kind of the learn to play tutorial videos coming up real soon here. We're working on it diligently, so keep your eyes peeled for that. There will be tons of updates on the Instagram, Patreon, Facebook. We've just started a Twitter as well that I have to figure out how to use. But thank you, thank you again for Cathy and Jake coming on and helping me out with this. Given I really think that these discussions go a lot better with the kind of the round table sort of bouncing everything back and forth between a couple people who've got some reps in. I mean, Cathy doesn't play as often as some of us because she's very busy with her own things going on right now, but she's played plenty enough to kind of get this. And
I played like 9 games in the last 24 hours.
This week has been a lot for you.
Yeah.
But yeah, and Jake as well, is it's really good to get his feedback. He's kind of been here since the get go. He's been one of the very early testers that's been
I remember
grinding.
Triple Epic, dude.
Yeah. But yeah, thanks again everybody for coming out, listening, feedback, all that type of thing. If you're looking at this on YouTube, I'd like to thank you for checking us out, and we're gonna do this again next week. Do another color and just kind of run it down. So until then, just want to say thank you, and I'll see you guys next time.
Can't see it.